Religion. What do we really know about it? How did it originate? And moreover, how did it mark its influence over our minds and reasoning? Going further, what is its role in our lives? And finally, what is the future of religion? These are the questions that I'm going to explore today. So, as far as we know, humankind first appeared on Earth roughly 2.5 million years ago. And for most of the time, humans lived similarly to other human-like species and animals. But then, some 70,000 years ago, something astonishing happened. And today, we call it the cognitive revolution. Humans started to communicating in a new and special way and acquired unique abilities that in the end distinguished them from other human-like species. It was abstract thinking and abstract ideas. People started to create fictional realities, such as myths, stories, and beliefs. But one of them has turned out to have the greatest impact on humanity of all: religion. Since then, religion has been an inherent part of our lives. First, we worshipped ghosts, stars, animals, but then with the agricultural revolution, we turned from polytheistic religions in favor of monotheistic ones, such as Judaism, Christianity, or Islam. Now, what are the arguments for the existence of God and against the existence of God? Well, the first argument for the existence of God is the first cause argument, designed by Bertrand Russell. It is based upon cause and effect, a belief that everything in this world must have its cause, and therefore the world itself must have a cause too, some sort of a creator. And the argument seems pretty valid until we discover that if everything must have a cause, then a God himself must have a cause too. And on the other hand, if there can be anything without a cause, it may just as well be the world without God. And the second most well-known argument is the natural law. If we live in a world full of rules and laws, it seems sensible to think that someone must have firstly created them. And apart from laws we devise ourselves, there are still laws such as gravity, or more importantly, natural laws. And if God created them, he must have had some idea of what is right and wrong. He must have followed some anterior criteria while thinking of them. And this would actually lead to him being the subject to law. And God, as we know him today, cannot be a subject to anything, because he's God. The aim of bringing up those arguments was to prove that the matter of existence of God is always decided. And I believe that one with the right consciousness in mind can conclude for oneself what is best from those arguments. Now, let's take a closer look at the origin of religion. In order to understand how religion influences human psyche, we need to first review how it originated from the perspective of psychology. Well, religion originated from the human's urge to explain the unknown and impossible to grasp by humans. And it is a result of an effort to explain all things, physical, metaphysical, and moral. And people so strongly believed in that concept that they went to an extent of explaining such things as weather, for example, through the existence of God. They used to think that lightning comes as a result of God's anger. But then a man named Benjamin Franklin came and did his little experiment on kite and proved that lightning is just a merely huge spark created by charged forces. And after more such scientific research and experiments, people came about to slowly acknowledge the fact that many phenomena in the world can be explained by means of science and not religion. And so began the age of science. Subsequently, religion started to lose its significance. And now let's ask ourselves the question, why do we belong to those religious communities? Why do we believe in God? Well, the greatest foundation of religion seems to be fear before death. And as the feeling of constant fear towards inevitable death might be very overwhelming and scary, then no wonder why we are prone to believing there is life after death. It just simply makes us feel safe and reassured that whatever happens, it is going to be fine. People always found themselves in a constant need of having an almighty older brother that would guide them on every step in their lives. And it is more than understandable to feel that way, because death is something which has not been yet fully examined, and moreover, it has never been yet fully reported to us how it felt, because it's impossible. And religion, along with God, is just a way to accept it and live without this immense fear. Now, let me tell you something about the imagined orders. Yuval Noah Harari, an Israeli historian and a professor at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, has gathered knowledge on ancient successes and struggles of Homo sapiens and discovered their unique characteristics, one of them being abstract thinking. Thanks to this ability, people could create myths, stories, and beliefs, and moreover, they could establish countries and nations. Harari describes it in the book *Sapiens* as an imagined order which exists intersubjectively in the shared imagination of millions of people. If the cognitive revolution had never happened, people wouldn't have been able to cooperate with each other, and as every effective cooperation needs to be based on trust, belief in same stories enable people to rely on each other. And religion, among others, is considered to have played a significant role in uniting people and thus allowing them to work towards the same goals. And now, let's see how the Enlightenment and science challenged the religion. Well, once Middle Ages came to an end, the era of science took its turn. There occurred a major change in people's perception of the world. They not only started to set expeditions to conquer new lands, but also started questioning the very foundations of church and religion in general. New discoveries impacted people's way of thinking, resulting in their minds being more open to revolutionary and unpopular ideas. Consequently, they set a clear boundary between science and religion. And due to various discoveries in the domain of science, people realized they can no longer explain the world solely through religion. Even more, they started noticing contradictions that distorted their earlier perceptions of God. One of them, which Russell describes in his book, is a contradiction based upon a belief that an omnipotent and omniscient God would not create a world with so much evil and suffering. If God is ascribed to features such as good and kindness, why would he knowingly create a world which he would simply not fulfill his vision? And that is a question we can bear in our minds for a moment now, but it is only one of the many contradictions that can be encountered while studying religion. And now I think the most fascinating topic of today is humans as gods. For centuries, people's perception of God has not changed. He was always perceived as almighty, omnipotent, omniscient, and the most divine creature to ever exist. However, what people do not realize is the fact that with every century, we are slowly beginning to resemble gods. And this may be thankful due to huge technological advances. Characteristics we ascribe to God are becoming our own. And the ability to create things prior considered divine has been fully grasped by humans. We devised cars, airplanes, atomic bombs, and internet, and that is only the tip of the iceberg. There are times in human history when people prayed when a famine or a pandemic came. Now we use and apply our medical knowledge to fight such struggles. We have learned to deal with crises without the need of turning to God. In addition, with a constantly advancing medical department, we may prolong humans' life or even become immortal. And it may seem impossible and shocking, but if someone told you centuries ago that we will be once able to fly or communicate with people across the ocean, would you believe it? I suppose no. And it is only the matter of time when we are able to manipulate and control biological processes happening in our bodies and for our advantage. And that brings us so much closer to achieving divine characteristics. It's astonishing, isn't it? And now the last question of today is, what is the future of religion? Will the dominant religions such as Christianity or Judaism survive? Or will completely new ones appear? Well, there are predictions that technology will reach such a high point that humans will not only become dependent on it, but also amazed by it, and therefore cherishing its every aspect. There's the possibility that religion might become a form of a religion, called dataism, a belief in facts and data. And it may not be the same as belief in a divine power, however, it will be good enough for many individuals since they will be self-sufficient with all the modern automation. For centuries, we had relied on God and religion, praying and hoping that the mess created in the world would solve itself when tough times came. Now we have learned to depend on science and attribute a great value to facts and data. We have learned to deal with crises without the need to beg God for help. We became independent. We seem to have become our own gods, making the future of religion very uncertain. Thank you.